as long as there's music, there's gonna be someone there to have to capture that sound and have to capture that recording.
Music starts with audio engineers. Their role pretty much is to be that background, be that bass, and develop the music.
The engineer can make or break a song. You can have the best artist, but if the production and quality isn't right, then it's not gonna work out.
At the end of the day, this is somebody's performance, and I'm just so proud to be a part of capturing that performance and engineering it to where that person's vision is being shared to a multitude of people across the world. I say being a rec tech student is probably the most interesting major at the University of Memphis.
I get asked a lot of questions about recording technology. Some people don't even know what it is when I say the name. So I'll just break it down and say audio engineering. And then they'll ask me questions like, oh, well, why are you in the studio for 7 hours? But it takes a lot of time to make good quality music.
When I say I'm studying recording technology, they think that I'm in here on a laptop on FL Studio trying to produce a beat, create a beat from scratch, and then send it off to the next SoundCloud rapper. But honestly, there's a whole different field outside of that production side, that engineering side of understanding the audio itself and understanding that even though you might not be producing the track, you're producing an aspect of the track, you're engineering. I'll say the first time I stepped in here, a lot of what I noticed was, oh my gosh, the size. Of course, when you're used to recording on USB microphones and recording in your closet or underneath your blanket, anything seems amazing to you, right? Just seeing all the assortment of equipment that we had, all the microphones, all the stands, the control room, the actual room, just kind of seeing all the tools that we had at our disposal, and that one of these days we would be able to use these tools.
First time I walked into the studio, I was like, I'm home. This is where I belong. Because I really haven't been into a real studio before.
When I walked in the studio, I didn't know a lot, so I was kind of overwhelmed because I was like, it's a lot of equipment that I have to learn. But overall, I was excited because I love music and I was ready to just get to making music and learning as much as I can. So I just kind of calmed myself down and was like, it's going to be okay. You got this.
A lot of times freshmen get in here and of course, the classes that they take the first 1, 2, maybe 3 semesters kind of seem mundane. They kind of seem dry, and it's just, man, you want to go ahead and take on the world and hop into the studio now. But thankfully, just us seeing the studio gave us something to shoot for, so that once we got in this position, we knew how to compose ourselves and handle ourselves.
Basically, we're like all a family since we're a small program. A very little percentage of students want to do music industry, and that's where we like all connect together.
Our class size is not big, it's very intimate. You'll pretty much learn everything in class. It's not too hard if you actually pay attention, study, and then actually get into the studio and practice working with the equipment and working your craft.
You have your signal at line level inside Pro Tools, and you need to actually knock it back down to instrument level.
Trust is a big thing because they trust us with the studio. If they feel like they didn't trust us, then they wouldn't leave us alone. That's a big part. But they said if you ever have trouble with anything, we can always call them no matter what time or day it is.
They have a lot of trust in us because if you met us, we're a wild bunch of kids. The trust that the professors have to have in us and in the whole program, and not just the professors, the School of Music and the University of Memphis in general, the trust has to be there. And without that trust, it'd almost be like another class in the sense where we're just being lectured to and looking at the equipment rather than getting that actual experience that would be beneficial to us in the long run.
Pre-production is important. Everything planning, as much planning as possible. That's what we need. Like mic setup, which mics you gonna use, you know what I'm saying? Where you gonna have your pianos, guitars, violins, you know what I'm saying? Whatever you using, as much planning as possible. It's gonna make your session easy as possible.
All the pre-planning that goes into the execution of what we would call our work or our exams or things like that. These are things that you can't study for. A lot of people have been desensitized and misled information-wise on how a studio works. When they think about the studio, they usually think, oh, it's a rapper, it's a microphone, we're just pushing space bar and the rapper's doing their thing. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of music isn't just hip hop, R&B, or pop, or something that can be recorded electronically. Sometimes there are live instrumentations that has to be involved.
If you don't know how to handle real instruments, then you can't really be a successful engineer if you only know how to work on a pad.
Recording sessions can take upwards of 10, 11, 12, 15 mics out, patch bay full of cords and cables. You gotta tear all this out, put all the mics up, put all the mic stands back, wrap all the XLR cables. If you move the drum set, move the piano somewhere here and there, you gotta put it back, gotta put back the cue system.
So when I go to a session, I like to have my stuff written out first. I like to have an input list where I have all of my mics written out, what I'm gonna use on where. I like to know who's gonna be there, so I definitely communicate with my artist or my band beforehand. I need to be aware of everything that's gonna go on in my session.
It's not just about music, it's about the technology aspect. So not only understanding how music works, understanding major, minor, understanding scales, but also understanding the engineering, the math, understanding, okay, voltage equals resistance times current. You have to have that almost right brain and that left brain combined into one single being in order to operate at a full function to be a great audio engineer.
Everything about being a recording student takes time, and I'm not a technical person at all. I still have to call my brother into my room if something's wrong with my TV. You know, it's just that you have to adapt and have to be patient.
An understanding of signal flow, we call it Wolflangus here, that's signal flow backwards. That's one of the biggest things that you have to understand. Understanding where your audio is going, which path it's traveling down, how it's going to get to your DAW, out of your DAW, into your speakers, your monitors, and whatnot, into the listener's ears. That's one of the most important parts. If you understand that, everything else can come. Understanding different techniques such as EQ, such as compression, understanding what your plugins do. Of course, understanding what your board does, understanding what your preamps do, understanding the tools that you have in your mic locker. Okay, you have these set of dynamic mics, these set of condenser mics. You have some tube condensers, you have some ribbon mics. This mic sounds good on this amp. This mic sounds good placed underneath this. To do your job well, you need to understand the equipment that is at your disposal and essentially how to maximize the output and get the best out of what you can do. The studio is a mess currently, but that's because a bunch of students are all doing projects at the same time. So it's hard to know who does what, who needs what. So if your session is, the instrumentation is specific, it's a little difficult to definitely set up. But 'tis the nature of setting up.
It takes a lot of time. You have to do a lot of takes. If you want your stuff to sound very good, then you need to be serious about it. And being serious about it means time.
This semester, our class is a bit bigger than the last time, so booking times are awful. You have to pick a number out of like a jug or something, and you gotta book all your times, and the semester's not long enough so we have to scrunch everything so we can be in here.
It's usually not quick. If you're here in the studio, especially for a session, you're understanding that you're going to be in here for 6, 8, 10 hours, maybe 12. You might come in here when the sun rises and you might leave when the sun sets. That's just how it is. That's just how it has to be.
It just really depends how well they know their song. Because there will be a lot of redos. And, yeah, the knowledge of their song, if they're continuing to write it during the session, that's what takes the longest.
Listen up.
Because you didn't practice.
Huh?
You didn't practice like you should have.
Ouch.
He really didn't. We were practicing last night, and he kept stopping. He was like, I got it. I'm like, no, you don't. You know, not all the way. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication. Maybe sometimes sleepless nights or, just not eating to focus on your work. It's not always peaches and cream. It is not always easy. It's like a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. You will always have sessions sometimes, like maybe every week, that are hours and hours long. It takes up a lot of your time. You may not be able to be as social as you want because you're in the studio trying to make music, but you're also trying to better your future. So you have to think of it as that.
This morning I showed up here at like 8:30. Everybody showed up till 10:30. We came through. We got piano and violin. So for my project 3, we got piano on my project 2, and then we waiting on Jonathan Harville to come through. He gonna do vocals on my project 1. So it's 1:00, and I guess we gonna figure out something to do until 5 p.m. Because now we just have time and space to basically waste, because we have to wait on musicians. Life as an engineer.
I was on a date before this previously. We went to go see a movie and go catch some dinner, and she was like, well, what are you planning to do after this? And I was like, well, I'm going to the studio. And it didn't click to her why I had to go to a studio session from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. presumably playing. And it's like, people don't understand. This is kind of what it takes to be successful in this industry, be successful in this field, that because the studio is open 24 hours, you got to be willing to come up any time of the day to be successful. So that's one of the things that other students don't have. They'll go to class during the day, and maybe they'll study at night or write a paper in the lab at night, but they're not actually in their field doing the work.
Getting in the studio and practicing with the equipment, that is how you learn. Like, you have to be in here. You have to be dedicated. When I was in basic recording, it was very, very hard for me. I was like, how am I going to learn this? Am I in the wrong major? I can't do this.
That first time is like very nerve-wracking because you're trying to remember everything, trying to make everything go right. You're just meeting these people. You're hoping that they got their song together and stuff like that.
It's very, very important for audio engineers to be able to adapt to any situation, because like I said, anything can go wrong.
Artists can't hear in this headphones. You're not getting signal here. The microphone that you thought you would like doesn't sound as well as you like, so you have to change the microphone or change the mic placement. Musicians don't show up. Musicians are late. They don't know the song very well. They try to write the song here at the session instead of actually having it memorized beforehand. Or even the worst one, they cancel altogether and you booked 8 hours of studio time to set up and honestly do nothing. So you have to take the good and the bad in this major for sure. But definitely it's those low points and those low moments that build your character and make you a better engineer overall.
You always have to plan ahead. And some things go wrong when you don't expect it. But you have to keep them calm so they won't freak out when things go wrong. Even though I'm sweating bullets and stressing out, but I keep a smile on my face and go, hey, everything's all right in here.
It's not easy to record a song by any means, but the studio has such a great aesthetic and a great environment to it that once you walk in, it is very homey and it's very laid back. But we only do that to make sure that the artist is comfortable enough to do their job.
Recording is not easy. I know I'm not mistake free, and having an engineer that is patient really helps, because it tends to be if somebody starts getting fed up, then it kind of becomes contagious.
It takes like psychology, because it's very stressful on artists, and that's why you gotta be patient, and which really is my weakest point.
Seeing the process happen in front of me makes me more conscious of what actually goes into engineering. I now put like a lot more value in like really clean takes, especially doing things in like one take, you know, making her job a lot easier. I mean, I wasn't really demanding in the first place, but now I'm like really not demanding, because seeing, you know, all the hard work that goes into it makes me appreciate it, and it really makes me appreciative of what she's doing and what all sound engineers are doing.
When we first started doing this, it was in the guitarist's neighbor's house, and it would kind of sound like we were recording through a tin can without all that fine tuning that goes on behind the console. It's gonna sound like garbage.
If you're the engineer in here, you understand that once you're in here, you have a job to do, and that your job is, there's an artist on the other side of that panel, and they have a vision, and they have a message, and they have a piece of art that they're trying to convey, and it's your job to understand their vision and work with them and create the best product that they possibly can and push that vision.
The engineer is pretty much the one that brings the session together. So you are the glue that makes it stick. We have to be able to multitask to actually work the session properly, engineer at an effective pace, and also keep the artist happy with the overall outcome.
The communication between the engineer and the artist has to be there, because if it's not, you're gonna have miscommunications, you know, certain things not gonna sound right, and certain visions the artist wants isn't gonna be portrayed correctly, or there's certain visions that the engineer might bash with the artist type thing. So I feel like communication is real important.
I just try to connect with the artist. I'll ask questions, and then if I get like a vibe from them, then I can really let my juices get to flowing and be creative along with them.
I feel like the engineer has to reciprocate the same amount of energy the artists have to keep up that energy and that vibe of the atmosphere.
I just love it when it all comes together, even though there's a lot of stress into it. It's like in life, you go through stress. You're not going to stop because it's stressful, you know, but you have to push through it. And I just love the feeling of accomplish something. And today it's 7:35, and I got here at 12. So, you know, big accomplishment.
My professor, Jeff Klein, once told me or taught us about what's called the Arc of Triumph. That Arc of Triumph kind of represents that as an artist is warming up, they're usually climbing a cliff of some sorts and getting better and better till they reach around that peak. But you don't want to go too far, go too over that peak, because sooner or later they'll drop off, and what you think you're getting is a great product, but sometimes you can overdo it, and artists can become frustrated, and the engineer can become frustrated, and everyone has to take a break so that cooler heads can prevail. Essentially, that Arc of Triumph represents those great moments in the studio. That one take where the artist is just like, man, that was great. And they feel the take, the engineer feels the take, the band feels the take, the A&Rs, the managers feel the take, and it's just like, man, it's a hit.
Yeah! Yes! Yeah! Woo!
The end result is the best part. When I hear that song, I'm just like, yes, I I did that. Well, they did that. You know, my artist did that, but I engineered that. Today's session was very, very eventful. I was somewhat overwhelmed at first because my drums were kind of like acting weird. Well, like I was picking up signal from some mics and I wasn't getting signal from other mics. That was kind of weird, you know. But overall, I think it went well. The end result is good. I like the song. The song is together. I did my task. I was supposed to initial track my initial, tracking session. This was the initial tracking. And I think I did that. I tracked initially. I'm just kidding.
I don't know or understand vibe. I just never want to waste my time. Take my feelings, put them to the side. Creeping back into my heart reside. Love has always seemed to cause you pain. So
I feel like it sounds good. Like, it hasn't even been mixed all the way. And, the sounds just come together so well. I feel like, all of our artistry styles, mesh together pretty well. So I think it's pretty good.
I think it all came together well. Like, engineer did a great job. Like, everything falls right into place. Everything is how I pictured it when I came to the engineer with the idea for the song.
I don't think I feel the vibe. Feelings all deep inside. Thought that you knew how to ride. Feels like you've been switching sides. Girl, I'm just trying to tell the truth. So now I'm sitting in the booth. Ain't drinking none, ain't feeling loose. Make a player feel like a broken tooth. Started off as my friend, but now I'm seeing the end. All cap, you always lie. No cap, you always sin. So I don't think I can be a man, cause no cap, I'm sick of your lies.
The engineer was vital. Like, without her, this thing wouldn't even happen. So she played a big role, like major role.
How lit was it?
Very lit. I mean, you've heard.
Well, I feel like what makes it worth it is the fact that you get music from it, because anyone can listen to the music. Like the song that you record at the end of the day can help anybody, like in the world. It can help someone. It can help you. So I feel like music is a remedy, and when you get that end result, that's worthwhile.
Being a recording technology major, you have to humble yourself. You can't come in here thinking that you're the hot stuff, and you have to be humble every time you step into the studio. Because just because your last record was this and that doesn't mean this record's gonna come out the same way. As it pertains to review, of course, criticism is a big part of the program. And sometimes what you think is amazing might not sound amazing to the professors. And art is very subjective, so we understand that.
It's hard to grade something that's supposed to be subjective. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes grading doesn't always feel fair. We have cultural factors. This is just like the way you're treated, you know what I'm saying? People understanding where you come from and the things that you have to go through to be here on a daily basis. Sometimes the communication is just not there. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying my best to communicate with you to get you to understand me, but sometimes it doesn't always feel like the attempt to understand is always there.
Just understanding that their criticism doesn't come from a point or a place of hate, but just their desire to make sure that you're understanding the material that they're teaching you, understanding the different techniques that they're trying to employ on you in a sense, because they want you to be successful. And you have to keep that in mind when you're hearing criticism, almost in any field, that when someone's trying to critique you, they're not trying to critique you, the person, but just the work that you did.
As a young female entrepreneur, as a young African-American entrepreneur, it has grown me in ways that I would never have to grow had I not faced these challenges, had I not had problems to communicating with people or, you know what I'm saying, understanding who I am and where I come from and what I stand for. Because all I can really say from it is that, yeah, that happened, and yeah, that was messed up, but also I learned so much from it. You know what I'm saying? I grew. And now I know how to handle those situations when they come in the future.
Why does anyone do anything that they're passionate about? The love of it. I mean, of course, money's cool. Would love to make money off of this. Would love to make money off of a lot of ventures that I do in life. But of course, you don't have to pay me to do this. The love of it keeps me going.
Like, I'll do this. If I make $1 million, come up off of it, I mean, if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. At the end of the day, I'm doing it because it's my passion. So if I become successful, at the end of the day, as long as I'm getting my music out there, then I'm gonna be happy. I'm successful in my eyes because I'm doing what I love.
Because I love it. Because this is where my heart is. Because without music, I wake up and I think, what would I do? Like, what else would I be doing? Out of all the things in the world that I could be doing, if I didn't have to do music, if I couldn't do music, if it wasn't an option for me, what else would I be doing? And I can't think of nothing else. So this is worth it to me. It's worth that much. It's worth that much trauma. It's worth that much, you know what I'm saying? Experience is worth that much. Difficulty, struggling.
It's a step to accomplishing your dream. And if you love music and you want to make music and you want to help to make music, this is the program that you should go for.
Well, I would say pray about it first. And really just sit down and think, like, okay, why did you do this in the first place? And then if it's like little issues, like, okay, I just can't learn the equipment, maybe you should just think about getting into the studio more to practice more. Maybe it's like simple issues that you can fix. But if it's like a deep thing, like, okay, maybe I really don't like music as much as I thought, I just want to listen to it and I don't want to actually make it, then you may have to change your major.
I know at the end of the day, as much as I do love being on this side of the studio, my ultimate passion is on that side of the studio. Nevertheless, I try to learn as much as I can about this side. Being well-rounded is probably in your best interest in this industry. But with that being said, I know at the end of the day, my goal is to be a successful artist myself, and success not being defined by the amount of money I make or even the amount of awards that I win, but just being able to get my music out there and spread it across the world, just a positive message that I feel that people need to hear. And just if I could change somebody's life with my words, that's the ultimate goal.
When I leave here, I would like to be a rap artist. I would like to, if the future holds that for me, I would like to own a record label and make it the biggest thing popping. I know that record labels, the music industry and how it works, that may seem like an impossible task, but that's one that I'm willing to take on.
If we let fear stop us, we wouldn't do anything, right? I mean, that's where courage comes in. And true courage is not defined by what you do when you feel like you've got it. It's when you inside are nervous, you inside are anxious, you inside are fearful, but you can't let that fear stop you. So is it scary? Yeah, probably, but it hasn't stopped me now. It won't ever stop me. I guess it's that fear of the unknown that's almost an extra motivating factor, an extra driving force in my life that's like, man, I don't know if I'm going to succeed or not, but I'm sure willing to try.